everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and today I am here to talk to you about all of the books that I bought this summer. Mainly in July, but I'm not saying it's my complete summer book haul because there is another book sale on Labor Day weekend, which is about 3 weeks away, which is very scary because that means school is also starting. But yes, so I will inevitably get more books at that book sale. But what you saw in the thumbnail was only half the amount of books that I got at this book sale, so let me walk you through them. Also, for those of you who are familiar with the cartoon Sarah's Scribbles, you may be familiar with this cartoon about how she splits her finances, and I think it's a struggle that we can all relate to as readers. So I am thrilled to say I am wearing my new book buying shirt by Out of Print, which has the second half of that cartoon printed directly on it. I thought it was appropriate. I may be wearing this in every single book haul from now on. I haven't decided. First of all, let's talk about the 3 books that I picked up independently. First off, I found House Girl by Michael Ondonkor for free at the local library when I was doing some tutoring, so of course I picked that up and brought that home. I just don't have the physical copy with me right this second. I honestly don't know a lot about this book. I remember it being really big on BookTube a couple of years ago, and it flip-flops between, I believe, England and Ghana. And I think it has something to do with sisters or some sort of other familial relationship. I'm intrigued to read it. I feel like I heard mixed things about it, but it was free, so now I get to make up my mind. The other 2 books that I bought recently. First up, I bought Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. The title is misleading, however, because it has this book and it also has the second book, Mrs. Harris Goes to New York, and they are both by Paul Gallico. You may have seen the trailer for the movie, as the movie came out, I believe, last month, and it's about Mrs. Harris, who's a cleaner in post-war Britain, and she decides one day that she deserves something nice, and she has come into some money by surprise. And she takes it as a sign that she is meant to go to Paris and treat herself to a designer dress from Chanel, Dior, your major 50s designers. The people get very snooty about her, but she takes no nonsense. She is extremely practical, and she and her friend Mrs. Buttersley, I think, get up to all sorts of adventures. Of course, in the next book, she ends up going to New York, and there were 2 others after that as well. There was Mrs. Harris, it goes by 2 different titles, so it's either Mrs. Harris MP or Mrs. Harris Goes to Parliament, where she ends up filling in Parliament. And the last one, I believe, was Mrs. Harris Goes to Moscow. And I know that was my mother's favorite, and she used to have a copy, but it fell to pieces, so I don't know that she has it anymore. And I can't find the last 2 in print. I can't find the Parliament one, and I can't find Moscow anywhere. Not on used book sites, not reprintings, so I'm really hoping they reprint the other 2 novels as well, or I'm going to be really mad. In fact, I wrote to them, begging them to please consider republishing the other 2, and I still have not heard. That was about a month ago, so if you also write, maybe we can get up a motion to get the last 2 published. But I'm very excited to read these and then watch the film with my mom to see if it lives up to how she always imagined the characters being. And then I was doing some early Christmas shopping because I had the ideas, so I may as well buy them now. And I had to purchase this one book for myself while I was at it, which is Paddington in Scots. I have a tradition of getting Winnie the Pooh and Paddington books in other languages that kind of started by accident. But I now have Winnie the Pooh in both German and Scots, And so I always had the first Paddington book in German, so now I also have it in Scots, so they match. Funnily enough, I don't have either of them in Spanish. I have them in a language that I do not speak. Scots I kind of speak, but German not so much. Now on to the book sale books. This is a very random assortment. I haven't really organized them, so I'm just going to walk you through them one by one. First, I have The Making of a Martinez by Frances Hodgson Burnett, who you may know from writing A Little Princess and The Secret Garden. And these, I believe, were novels for adults that Persephone has republished. And I just found out on Goodreads that this is a bind-up of 2 novels about our main character. I don't even know her name, but I saw it. It was a Persephone. I've heard something about it. It's not very well known, but I feel like I have heard about it on some people's channels, so of course I grabbed it. Next, I found The Bookshop by Penelope Fitzgerald, or rather, Marissa found it and then decided, am I really going to read this? And I said, well, if you're not, I will. I have heard fabulous things about this from Magrat Ajustirnos, who, if you speak Spanish, is a fabulous booktuber. She really loved the book. I've been wanting to watch the film for ages, so now I can read the book first. And I believe it's about a woman, a single woman, who opens a bookshop in a small town in England sometime in the early half of the 20th century. I want to say it's in the 1940s, 1950s. And the people of the town are very suspicious of this, especially of the books that she is selling. And I would assume it goes on to champion books and booksellers. And that sounds fabulous. It's quite a small little read, but I'm quite looking forward to it. Next, I found Dickens' Fur Coat and Charlotte's Unanswered Letters, The Rows and Romances of England's Great Victorian Novelists by Daniel Poole, who you may know from writing What Jane Austen Ate and Charles Dickens Knew, which I know it's not a great guide to 19th century history, but it is a great opener to 19th century history. So I'm curious to see what he would do with a tighter theme than his first book. So we shall see. Next, I found 2 books by Arturo Pérez Reverte in English. The first is The Flanders Panel. Yes, I had a copy of this already, but this is a much nicer edition. So I bought this one, and I have redonated the other edition that I had. I don't know anything about this, except that it somehow has to do with chess. But Pérez Reverte is a fantastic writer, so I'm intrigued to see what this turns out to be. And then I also found The Fencing Master, which is another of his novels. Oh, this sounds good. I just reread the back to remind myself, and I may just read it to you. So it says, in Madrid in 1868, fencing master and man of honor Don Jaime is approached by a mysterious woman who seeks to learn the secret of the unstoppable thrust, an arcane technique known only to him. All too soon, he finds himself in the vortex of a plot that includes seduction, secret political documents, and more than one murder. That sounds amazing. Then I found Watching the English by Kate Fox, which is subtitled The Hidden Rules of English Behavior. And it is precisely that. It's nonfiction, and it's kind of an anthropological study of the English and their mannerisms in quite a tongue-in-cheek and funny way. And I have been wanting to read this since 2012 because I remember being on break from school in Spain and going back to England and seeing this on display in the Waterstones in Bath and really wanting to read it, but I didn't buy it at the time, and I've been looking for it ever since. So I feel like this was a sign. I then found this copy of TheReluctant Fundamentalist by Mohsen Hamid, which I don't know much about. I feel like there may be some controversy surrounding it, but I could be misremembering that as well. All I know is it's a Pakistani man who moves to America and about how he feels in America before, during, and after 9/11, and how that affects his life, his emotions, his relations with others, his faith, everything that that would entail. So I'm intrigued to see what I think of this. I also found A Single Thread by Tracy Chevalier. I've read a couple Tracy Chevaliers and thought they were just okay. I'm really excited for this one, however, and I have very high hopes for it. It's about a woman who might be widowed. I might be making that up. But it's around World War II, and she and a bunch of other women joined together to form this sewing circle to embroider things for their church. So embroidering kneeler cushions, altar cloths, all of those sorts of things. And that sounds fantastic. I've gotten back into embroidery myself recently, and I've heard wonderful things about this from Jen Campbell, among other booktubers, so I'm excited to get to it finally. I then found this nonfiction book, Privilege and Scandal, The Remarkable Life of Harriet Spencer, sister of Georgiana. And that would be Georgiana, Duchess of Devonshire, who was, of course, a major figure within Regency history. You may have seen the film featuring Keira Knightley. However, I didn't even know that she had a sister. And that's after seeing the film, after reading the biography by Amanda Foreman. So I'm really intrigued to see what Harriet's life was like and how it compared to Georgiana's. This family is also most famous for being related to Diana Spencer. She is a descendant of Georgiana and Harriet. So I'm very excited for this. In other chunky books, I found Ruska by Edward Rutherford. Do I own 3 other books also by Edward Rutherford? Yes. Have I read any of them yet? No. Did that stop me from getting a 4th? No. Edward Rutherford is who I'm calling the modern James Michener. He documents the history and development of a place, usually a country, but sometimes he has a smaller focus as well. And he does so by looking at a particular family and then following them throughout the generations. So you can see how these major historical and economic and societal changes that would happen over the centuries would affect ordinary people. I think it's a really cool concept. I have the one he wrote on London, New York, and I think Princes of Ireland, but he's done them for, oh no, I take it back. I don't have New York, I have Paris. He's done them for New York. I think he recently did one on China. He's done them for many, many areas of the world. But I've always been fascinated by Russian history, so I'm very pleased to have picked up this one. I also then found The Last Chronicle of Barset by Anthony Trollope, which is, as it sounds, the last book in the Barsetshire Chronicle series. I read the first 2 and really enjoyed them. I'm trying to pick up Dr. Thorne sometime in the next 2 months, which is book 3, and now I own the rest of the books as well. I just have to get around to reading them. Another classic I found was The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim, which sounds absolutely delightful, and it's been cropping up a lot this spring in the booktube videos that I've seen, so I'm excited to try it for myself. And yes, I will do that cliched thing of waiting to read it in April. It is the story of 4 women who are trying to escape their lives, and they all go to the Mediterranean. I also picked up Washington Square by Henry James. I've only read one book by Henry James, which is The Turn of the Screw. I feel like that is the least Henry Jamesian of Henry James's works, in that it's the least day-to-day slice-of-life type novels that he tended to write, like The Wings of the Dove and Daisy Miller and all of those. I'm not sure where to start with his standard works, but I figured Washington Square is quite slender, so it's a good taster for me to see if I want to continue exploring some of his other works, especially now that I tried Edith Wharton. I always categorize the two of them together. I don't know if I should, but I feel like they're very similar. Let me know down in the comments if you think I'm on the right track with this. I then found this book, which is Resolution by A.N. Wilson, which is a novel of the boy who sailed with Captain Cook. So A.N. Wilson is a noted historian and biographer. I've seen him on a lot of Lucy Worsley documentaries. I have some of the nonfiction that he's written about the Victorian era, which I always mean to read during Victober and then never do. But this is a fiction book that he wrote about Captain Cook's voyage to Australia and the surrounding area. And I think that would be really fascinating, so I'm intrigued to see how this turns out. Later on, however, I also found Our Times, also by A.N. Wilson, which is a history of the modern Elizabethan era and the massive changes that have taken place over the course of, at this point it was about 50 years, that Elizabeth II had been on the throne. And I think that would be really cool, doing a history of an era that hasn't yet ended. Knock on wood, may she live a very long time yet. I also picked up The Widows of Malabar Hill by Sujata Massey. It's a deluxe edition, very nice. But I've been seeing this around for a couple of years now, and it's always vaguely intrigued me, but not enough to pay full price for. But for $2, I will gladly take it. I believe this is a mystery set among a community of Indian women. And there's one woman in particular. Oh, I left something out. So we're in 1921, and this young woman has just graduated from Oxford and joined her father's law firm, and she has a personal history that makes her want to really, I don't want to say crusade because that's the wrong word, but really fight for women's personal rights and legal rights herself. And then she encounters a particular mystery involving widows in Malabar Hill, and things unfold from there. And lastly, another chunker, I found The Winter Rose by Jennifer Donnelly. This is the second book in a series. The first book was The Tea Rose, and the third and final book is The Wild Rose. I read The Tea Rose years ago. It was my roommate Ellie's favorite book in university. So I read it during our freshman year so I could understand why she loved it. And it was very good. It was about a young girl who is an Irish immigrant to America. She leaves her boyfriend behind, her one true love. He ends up emigrating to New York as well, and it's watching various romances unfold and watching their lives unfold in New York and wondering, are they ever going to run into each other again? I don't know if this is going to pick up with the same characters, if it's going to pick up with the next generation. I honestly don't know. I've been looking for it for so long that I've forgotten a lot of book one. But I'm now very excited to have book 2, and I picked up book 3 a couple of months ago because my school library was discarding it. So I now have the full series and I can dive back in. I hope I love it as much as I did when I was in college. So there you have it. Those are some of the books that I bought in July. I will let you know what my August/September book haul looks like. I always think of Labor Day weekend as August, even though technically this year, and indeed many other years, it is in September. And I will let you know what I found at that library book sale. It is book sale season around here. I don't know why, but it tends to start in July and it runs through until about October. So I may have a couple of book hauls then, but let me know down below if you have read and loved any of these books, or if you have answers to any of the questions that I posed throughout this video. or if you would recommend that I read these books at a particular time, which could even be sooner rather than later. And I can't wait to hear from you. Until next time, be safe, be well, and happy reading. Bye, everyone.